Now, this week looks then set to be a key one for the Labour leadership. The party is under pressure to clarify its position on airstrikes in Syria ahead of a vote potentially as early as Wednesday. Well, the Shadow Chancellor, John McDonnell, has described it as a matter of moral conscience, suggesting the vote should be a free one. And, of course, there's the matter of Chairman Mao's little red book. Maybe a bit more about that later. John McDonnell joins me now, as you can see. Very good morning to you, Mr McDonnell. Free vote, then. You stick by that. This is a matter of conscience, and Labour MPs should be able to vote accordingly without being forced by the leadership.
I think all MPs should be put in that position. I hope David Cameron will allow his members to have a free vote as well. I've held that position now for, well, I've been in Parliament 18 years, so all that time I've been on the basis that this is above party politics and it should be down to the individual MP, consulting his constituency obviously, and coming forward with his or her view on the safety of his or her own constituents and the country at large as well.
Why didn't Jeremy Corbyn say that this morning? You must have talked to him about this. I mean,
yes, I have.
You know where you painted into a corner on this. So what's the discussion been?
You've got to get used to this in the media about the new politics within the Labour Party. What Jeremy has done is set out his own view about the issue around bombing, but also he's made it clear that party members, our shadow cabinet, our National Executive Committee, our Parliamentary Labour Party will all have a view of expressing their views. He's undertook a consultation. He's closing that consultation by the end of today, and then he'll make a decision and recommend that to the shadow cabinet, take it to the shadow cabinet. It's the leader's decision in the end. I'm hoping he's taking my view into account just as much as anybody else's, and I'm hoping, I say this again, I'm asking David Cameron to do the same thing as well and have a free vote across the House. OK, but what is Mr Corbyn up to then with this saying he'll consult again? He's already consulted with the membership, and he mentioned this morning about the scale of the mandate he has from Labour members and supporters. Is he trying to intimidate MPs? No, of course not. Not at all. You've got to get used to our new process of democracy within our party. Everyone should have a say, and that's where he's making sure they can have a say.
We have a representative democracy.
Yes,
once the MPs are elected, they take decisions on behalf of their constituents, and they don't normally have to... That's the nature of our democracy.
Please let me finish. We're trying to get a new politics where people can have their say. So when MPs come to their decisions, they're informed of the views expressed by party members, their constituents and others. And what Jeremy is doing is using all the new technological methods of social media, consultations, making sure people have their say, and we can then take those into account. We've had, from his email that went out on, I think, late Friday night, we've had 70,000 and more responses already expressing their views about the situation on the bombing, and I think also on the issue around the free vote or not. So he'll come to a decision on that basis, and all those views will be taken into account.
OK, so not intimidate, but just describing that process to me as you have, Mr McDonnell, you're talking about putting pressure on MPs from below. Well, of course you are, because you're consulting with the membership to put some pressure on their MPs.
You're not listening. You're mistaking dialogue and consultation for the old politics of lobbying and pressure. That isn't what we're about anymore. We're allowing people to express their views. And what that means is MPs really being fully informed.
Within that, would you like some MPs to change their minds? MPs who perhaps haven't consulted as widely as they have done with their constituents, with the members of their local parties, who are thinking of voting along with Mr Cameron's recommendation, would you like them to change their minds?
Well, it's interesting. The bulk of the people I've spoken to are actually keeping their minds open. And I read this morning David Davis, the Conservative MP, former Conservative Home Secretary. I read his article, which I thought was extremely considered. Now, he's come down against bombing by the looks of it, but he's putting some really clear questions. I think that still need to be addressed in the debate. So I think on a cross-party base, I want a consensus in the House of Commons. If we can lift this above party politics, allow MPs to come to a view on the basis of their conscience, I think we get so much better decisions in that way.
But you haven't changed your views, though, because, we refer back to, remember your conference when you set, as you described then, some pretty stringent conditions to apply if there were to be any British military action in Syria. Haven't they all been met? I mean, the key one is, of course, authorisation from the United Nations, humanitarian assistance for refugees. There's a lot of that going on. Bombing IS targets only, that's what we hear from the Prime Minister, and international diplomatic efforts, which are ongoing at the moment.
Let me just quote back David Davis from his article. What he's saying is that he's not convinced there's either a military plan or a long-term political solution that's being planned by the Prime Minister as well. And I agree with that. I think the Prime Minister actually has come forward with proposals which I think many people are sceptical about and actually might worsen the situation. So I'm opposed to the bombing because I know the argument's been brought forward that this will be very clinical, very precise, etc. I'm concerned that any collateral damage will be used by ISIS as a recruitment tool, to be frank, and I think it will possibly endanger us even more. I would like us to do two things. Concentrate on our own security abroad, at home, and then abroad what we need to do is be the broker of a political solution in the region. I think the regional powers will have to solve this. They've got to step up to the plate, and I think we've got to put that on the agenda now in the Vienna talks. And that does mean, exactly as we did in Iraq, actually, when the Sunni tribes turned on al-Qaeda and defeated them, that was the most effective way of actually resolving the situation.
OK. And in terms of what's going on in Parliament, there are those that are now saying you and Jeremy Corbyn are trying to muddy the waters. We know the Prime Minister's position on a vote. He wants to know he's going to win it. Yeah. And he wants to know the position of your party, and he wants to know he's got enough of his own MPs, as you describe, who will vote with him. Are you trying to put enough doubt in the Prime Minister's mind here that he actually won't hold a vote at all?
No. I think the Prime Minister needs to think very, very carefully about all these issues that have been raised, not just by Labour MPs, but by Conservative MPs as well. It's not about sowing doubt. It's actually honestly expressing one's judgment. I've been in Parliament, as I said, for 18 years. I've sat there when decisions have been made to send our young men and women to war, and some of them have come back, unfortunately, maimed and killed. I think it's the most serious decision a member of Parliament can make, and I think the Prime Minister needs to take account the real problems that a number of MPs have got with this promotion of a bombing campaign, which many of us think will be counterproductive.
And do you think it could be counterproductive in the sense that it could lead to terror attacks on the streets of Britain?
We're already under threat. Let's be clear about that. That's why I think I support the government's investment in increased security, and I'm glad we changed the Chancellor's mind with regard to cutting the police. But the reality is we're not fighting a conventional war here. This isn't like the Second World War, where you fight on a battlefield, you defeat the enemy, they sign a peace treaty and go away. We're fighting, yes, a bit of a traditional campaign on a battlefield, but I think also we're fighting a terrorist campaign, and terrorism works by the actual perpetrators convincing others they're the victims and recruiting.
I mean, the question is about making yourself a target, as your colleague Ken Livingstone said on Thursday when it came to the awful barbarity of 7/7 and all the people that died in London on that day. That he saw that as a direct consequence of Britain's involvement in the invasion of Iraq. I think similar things could flow from intervention in Syria.
The lessons we've got to learn is whatever action we take, we mustn't allow the action to be used by ISIS as a recruitment tool to radicalise people within our own community and across Europe. So we have to be really careful on what we do.
But do you think Ken Livingstone's right?
Well, I think there's a grain of truth in the fact that if we do anything that enables ISIS to have this narrative that this is a Crusader invasion or attack between Christians against Muslims, it's nothing of the sort. What we're tackling here is a murderous group, but we've got to be sophisticated in the way we do that, and nothing we do should be allowed to be used by them to recruit to their terrorist activity.
So not a direct causal link, but it could add to that narrative.
My worry is that they will use it in that way. And I think what we've got to do is be much more sophisticated now, learn the lessons of Iraq, certainly, and in that way I think we can prevent them radicalising our youth and using this as a tool to recruit.
There is another way forward as well, and you've talked about the diplomacy, and we know about your discussions and contacts with the IRA and Sinn Féin over the years, and ultimately it was talks that led to that conflict at least being stopped and progress being made there. Do you think we may come to a situation where elements of Islamic State could hold discussions with us?
I can't see it, because I can't see it with this group, because they seem to have they call the death cult. They seem to be so ideologically opposed to everything that we stand for. I can't see those negotiations taking place with a group like this. I don't think that's possible. But as in Iraq, what happened is that the Sunni tribes, clans, turned on al-Qaeda. We've got to work on those people who are not fighting against them on the ground at the moment, and maybe giving them tacit support. Can I say also, the point that Jeremy Corbyn raised time and time again in the House of Commons is absolutely key as well. We've got to stop the supply of weapons and also stop them selling oil to surrounding powers, basically. And I think
one way of doing that is bombing the tankers and the oil installations.
Well, quite the reverse, actually. I think the bombing then causes collateral damage, then they use it to recruit in the wider Arab region.
There's a simple question here as well about socialist solidarity, isn't there? President Hollande is calling for our help.
Yes. I thought Mark Rylance answered that, the actor answered that very clearly yesterday in an interview. I thought it was quite a clever response, where he said, if your friend is in a fight, and then he calls upon you to get in that fight. Sometimes it's best to say, actually, there's a better way of resolving this. So I'm not sure whether an immediate response in terms of bombing is the right way forward. I think what we should be doing is using our skills that we've demonstrated in Northern Ireland, to be honest, about how you arrive at a peaceful situation.
Well, hold on. You mentioned Mark Rylance speaking at the rally yesterday. He also talked about talking to Islamic State.
Well, I don't think that's feasible. I don't think that's feasible with this group. But I actually do think if we bring the regional powers together within their area, we can get them to step up to the plate. A lot of the Sunni regimes now have just backed off because we're there. The more we intervene, the less they perform their responsibility.
OK, got to ask you about the autumn statement. We've got that clip again when you must have thought it was a terribly good wheeze to wave the little red book around at the Chancellor. Let's just have a look at that moment, see what you think of it now.
I brought him along Mao's little red book. Let me quote, Mr. Speaker. Quote is this. Behave. We must learn to do economic work from all who know how, no matter who they are. We must esteem them as teachers, learning from them respectfully and conscientiously. But we must not to pretend to know what we do not know. I thought it would come in handy for him in his new relationship.
Have you seen that back since Wednesday?
Oh, plenty of times, don't worry.
I mean, what was going through your mind? You accept it backfired?
No, I don't think it did. It backfired amongst the media, but I don't think it backfired amongst the general public. It's interesting the amount of emails I've been having, even people stopping on the street saying, actually, you made a good point. The point I was trying to get across, which we wouldn't be talking about if I hadn't done that, is I'm really worried about the asset sales. The Office of Budget Responsibility has said that the government can only bring down its debt as a result of these asset sales that are going on. And I'm worried. For example, they brought forward £5 billion worth of asset sales. Air traffic control is now being sold. I'm worried about how much of our assets are being sold off. It's no longer the family silver, this is the furniture, and it's being sold off to foreign states, and I find that really worrying, both in terms of particularly strategic resources like the air traffic control, but also it's affecting our balance of payments now. We've sold off so much that income is being sucked out of our economy.
But do you not think waving a communist manifesto like that around, socialist yourself rather, took that point away, overshadowed that? John McDonnell
you would not
red book.
You would usually the Shadow Chancellor's speech sinks beneath the waves within about half an hour of him or her making it. You would not be talking about it if I hadn't done that. And shall I say something else as well? I find it quite ironic as well that actually George Osborne is going around China selling off our assets, and he's dealing with a regime that actually is abusing human rights at the same time. I've been campaigning against the invasion of Tibet and the oppression of the Tibetan people by China. They don't seem to be raising any human rights issues. So this has allowed me to do two things. Expose the asset sales that are going on, expose the implications of that, us selling our assets abroad to foreign powers, but in addition to that, start raising human rights issues in China too.
Do you ever feel that you and Jeremy Corbyn are reaching the end of the road? I mean, is all this getting to you? Do you think you are going to be Chancellor of the Exchequer?
Yes, yeah. Well, look, I think what we're doing here is we're opening up politics, and actually, as a result of that, we're becoming stronger because we're engaging with more and more people. And I don't want to be too critical, but the media are almost in a separate bubble. And when you get into a situation now where people are turning off from reading papers, sometimes I hate to say watching TV as well, because it doesn't reflect their lives. What we're doing is reconnecting people with the political system.
And what about the Oldham by-election? Do you think the wheels might come off the bus there, and that might have implications for your continued tenure?
No, I was there yesterday canvassing in the pouring rain. The response on the doorstep was pretty good. We've got a fantastic candidate in Jim McMahon, local boy, really knows his constituency. People respect him a lot. It's going to be, it depends on the weather on the day. It's December, and by-elections are notorious for low turnout, so you can...
But whatever the result, no resignations?
Oh, no, not at all, no. We go on. I think we're going from strength to strength.
OK, well, Shadow Chancellor, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. John McDonnell there, and it should be said about the Oldham by-election, there's a full list of candidates on our website there.